BBB is back, and we thought with the January transfer window being open, we'd do a special BBB episode with myself, Fara Williams, Anita Asante, and head of BBC Women's Sports reporter, Emma Sanders. Welcome, guys. How are we? Neat, you've been out in LA, I've seen, at a wedding. How was that?
Yeah, good to be back, Farah. Nice to see you, Emma. Yeah, it's nice to be back. Had a great time at my close friend Ali Riley's wedding in LA, which was lovely. Obviously, considering the circumstances and obviously the devastation with the wildfires there, it was nice to have something to celebrate and just bring people together and focus on something else. But obviously her and her family are directly impacted, and a lot of people they know. So it was really an occasion of loads of mixed emotions, I think. But it was nice to be able to go out there and just support a really good friend that I've had over many, many years.
Emma, I've been seeing your Instagram posts, some painting. How are the arms doing? What's new with you?
So much work, yeah. Moving in over Christmas was a nightmare because no one's around to do anything, so you've got to do it all by yourself. But as we said before, strong, independent women and all that. So yeah, busy, very, very busy. We're
going to get straight into it. That's why we've got you on the show. But I'm just going to, first of all, announce some done deals in the women's game. So we know that Guru Wrighton for Chelsea has signed an extension to her contract. Grace Clinton signs an extension to her contract. Sam Kerr, not the Chelsea Sam Kerr, Sam Kerr, Scottish Sam Kerr, signs on loan for Liverpool from Bayern Munich. Julia Bartel signs on loan from Chelsea to Liverpool, so another good signing there. Hopefully I get this name right, and maybe you two will correct me. Rebecca Knack, I think that might be right, signs from Rosengard to Manchester City. Kasparow, is that how you say it? Remind me how you say that, Anita.
Kasparow, yeah, you almost there.
There we are.
Perfect.
Contract extension at Manchester City, and that was actually that social media content behind that was bang on. I really enjoyed watching that one. I don't know if you guys saw it when they revealed the signing. And then this one was a big one for me, and I've left it to last. Hayley Ladd signs for Everton from Man United. Now, this is one I wanted to talk about the most. The other ones we could talk about maybe later, but Hayley Ladd signs for Everton. Wales qualified for their first European Championship that comes up this summer. And we know she hasn't been getting the minutes she would like at Man United. Do you think that was played a part maybe in the reason for her leaving?
Yeah, I think it was massive for her. And I think, we all sort of knew that she was going to be on the move at some point. It's been talked about for a few months now, sort of, behind the scenes, that obviously she wanted those minutes. She wants to be playing regularly so that Wales are in the best possible position come the summer. Obviously, she's a big player for them as well. It was just a really kind of strange season for her. She played such a key role for United last year under Mark Skinner, and then she's just really struggled this year. So I think for her on a personal level, it probably came as a bit of a shock. And yeah, she, like I say, she was just desperate for game time. So I think it's a really shrewd signing by Everton. They need some experience in there, and they need some players that can provide some consistency. Obviously, the takeover is complete now at Everton, so they've got money to spend, and they're able to pay the wages for players of the quality of Hayley Ladd. So a really, really good signing for them, and I think a really good move for Hayley because I think she'll play a key role at Everton, and she'll get those minutes hopefully that she wants to be able to go into the summer and be at the best possible position for Wales.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm a former Everton player, so big signing is what we want because I don't believe they're in the spot that they should be. But Neat, how big is that? Not just for Hayley Ladd and Everton, but for Wales heading into the Euros this summer.
Yeah, it's massive. We both know, how important it is to get minutes going into major tournaments, not only just to, build that into your kind of your body and everything from a physical aspect and even a psychological one, but also just to build that confidence, again, of playing and enjoying your football. It's going to be a massive summer for Wales, and she's an important player in that. And I also think, she's going to a club that fits the profile that she has. She's a technical ball player, can play in a defensive midfield role, is versatile, has got great vision and great distribution. So, this is something we've seen Everton try to do throughout the season and not necessarily have the players to execute it. And I think she definitely fits that. So, I think a really good signing for them, actually. I probably expected her to potentially go to another club a bit higher up in the table, potentially. but a massive coup for them, definitely.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It was a surprise when I saw that signing, one that I was happy with, because as you've just mentioned all the qualities that she has, and for me, my opinion, she should have had more minutes at Manchester United. But I do agree with you in terms of the profile of player going into that Everton team. It's somebody that they certainly need, stable up that midfield. I think they've been a little bit loose in there, so I think she's perfect signing. And you know what, Neats? Sometimes it's not so bad when you go from those big clubs to the so-called smaller clubs and get back to enjoying the football. I think you get the very best out of players when that happens. And hopefully for her and for Wales, that happens between now and the summer. But let's talk about the summer and the Euros, because one massive England player, I mean, she scored the winner in the Euros when we last won it. Chloe Kelly hasn't had the minutes, in my opinion, that one, she deserves, given what she's done for Manchester City, and two, probably that she would like. Now, we know it's been heavily rumoured for a long time. In the summer, there was rumours that she might have been leaving Manchester City. That didn't happen. But there's been some big rumours. Emma, I'm hoping you have some insights as to whether Chloe Kelly is going to stay at Manchester City in January or make that big move that she needs in order to get minutes before the Euros. Do you have anything for us?
Yeah, well, there's absolutely no secret that Chloe wants, obviously, to move. She wants the game time. We haven't got any intel at the moment on whether she will move. I think it's proving quite tricky at the moment. I think the best case scenario for everyone involved is a loan move. Now, obviously, that then has difficulties because there's only a certain number of clubs at the level that obviously Chloe wants to be playing at. So, you look at the top clubs in the WSL, for example, and you could argue that Arsenal, Chelsea, even Manchester United, do they really need someone like Chloe Kelly at the moment? Is that a priority for them in the January window, which is traditionally quite difficult to recruit? A lot of clubs will prioritise, certain positions that they need, and that might be, I don't know, it might be the difference between them winning the title or not, or it might be injury cover. So, centre backs are always quite a good position in January that people will look at. Goalkeepers are another one as well. So, there's an argument that none of those clubs really need Chloe Kelly. Do they want to be paying the wages? And then if they're looking in terms of a permanent transfer, then again, there's only a handful of clubs in world football that could really afford to sign Chloe Kelly. She still has a year and a half, I think, left on her contract. So that's not a cheap buy. So there's real difficulties there in terms of her moving, and I think that's what's proving difficult. I think Manchester City are open, as far as I know, to a loan move if the right person comes in. Obviously, they don't want to sort of let her go to a rival as well, so that poses problems. But I think come the end of the window, I think we're all sort of just biding our time a little bit and waiting for the kind of the last week of the window, because that's when obviously clubs will know what positions they've managed to fill so far, maybe what targets they've missed out on or they've been able to get. And I think that's when clubs will, I suppose, to be blunt about it, become a little bit more desperate, and they might be willing to throw a bit more cash out there if they need, if they need a position. So I think those kind of big player movements tend to happen towards the end of the window. So yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see. And obviously, if Manchester City are able to bring in another forward before then I think it increases the chances of Chloe being allowed to leave on loan to even a rival if needs be.
Why do you think that Chloe Kelly hasn't managed to acquire more minutes at Man City? For the quality that she has.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I don't think any of us really know the answer. And I think that's what's just a bit strange about the whole thing. She seemed to obviously play regularly and then not at all. I know Gareth Taylor, when you look at his team selections, he does tend to go through phases with certain players. There might be a team that clicked for a certain period of time, and he likes to stick with that team then, and it's very hard to kind of get back in there. That's just my personal opinion for what I've seen on the outside. But I think certainly she had that big injury, didn't she, before the last Women's Euros, and she wasn't really fully fit, and she was still able to come on and obviously have an impact for England off the bench. But I think it probably took her a good 6 months or so after that to kind of get back to her level with Manchester City. And then she was playing consistently, for the whole season afterwards. And then, they obviously recruited in the summer. They brought in, Aba Fujini, who's a really talented player, obviously from the Japanese international team, a young player. And, it looks like she's been getting a lot more game time than Chloe Kelly. So I don't know whether that was a decision maybe higher up in the club where they wanted to look at youthful talent and they wanted to kind of build the next generation. I don't know. But I think it just, for me, feels like a very odd decision that someone like Chloe isn't getting game time, particularly, when you've got that kind of consistency with Lauren Hemp, both at, the national team and with club. They were playing so well kind of alongside each other. And obviously with Bunny in the middle, it was a front line that worked. So yeah, I think it's just been quite strange really. And I don't know whether that's a breakdown in terms of, obviously there's been reports that maybe her relationship with Gareth Taylor isn't as good as what it has been. Obviously, Gareth has come out and said that that's not true. Chloe's probably never going to comment on that publicly. So I suppose, you don't really know those ins and outs that happen every day on the training ground. But yeah, she just doesn't seem as confident. She doesn't seem as relaxed as maybe she was before. So clearly something's not going right there.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Something definitely has gone wrong along the way somewhere. Whether it was the transfer rumours in the summer and maybe Chloe's head being turned a little bit and Manchester City and Gareth Taylor in particular not being happy with that. But how worried will Chloe Kelly be if she doesn't get that loan move, permanent transfer, or even minutes if she stays at Manchester City in terms of a place in the England squad going into the Euros in the summer?
Yeah, I think she'll be really concerned. You're looking at the likes of Aggie Beaver-Jones, for example, at Chelsea, who hasn't really had much game time under Sarina Wiegman so far, but is consistently being selected for the first team squad. Anita will know really, really well what kind of qualities she has. And obviously she's come through that England pathway. And I think, Sarina likes that link between kind of the under-23s and the first team. So you would think, as the season goes on, someone like Aggie will probably get more game time at Chelsea as the fixtures list starts piling up. And if Chloe isn't getting that game time, then, I think that puts her above Chloe in the pecking order in terms of the Euro squad selection. Obviously, Jess Naz is playing really well at Tottenham and has impressed Sarina Wiegman in recent camps as well. So you've got these really good young forwards that are coming through. And Chloe's name is just going further and further down that list. And, she can't pick everyone. Lauren James is obviously coming back from injury now, so that's another huge player for England in that front line. It's so competitive, and I think at the moment for me, if I'm looking at the last England squad and then I add Lauren James to that list, and obviously Lauren Hemp when she comes back from injury, Chloe probably would be the first one to drop out of that list, in my opinion, at the moment. So yeah, I think she'll be really concerned, and she needs those minutes desperately, I think.
Well, there'll be lots of people, I guess, until the end of the window looking out to see if Chloe gets either that move that she deserves, I guess, or those minutes if she is to stay at Manchester City. Another big name that was heavily rumoured to Arsenal in the summer was Keira Walsh, midfielder currently at Barcelona. We know in the summer they tried to get her in at Arsenal. Do you think that could happen this January transfer? There was also I don't know if it was a rumour or people, trying to push Chelsea towards maybe putting a bid in alongside Arsenal. But those rumours are there for Keira Walsh, Chelsea or Arsenal. Do you think that will happen this January transfer? Or do you think, she'll see her contract out in the summer and weigh up her options?
I'm really intrigued by this situation. And I do think there's still a possibility that this could happen in January. The Chelsea rumours, absolutely, from what I've been told, that is legit. There's only a handful of clubs in the world that can afford her again. And Chelsea, they were looking for a central midfielder in the last sort of week of the summer transfer window. Obviously, Sophie Ingles' ACL injury had an impact on that. Julia Bartel, as you mentioned at the start of the podcast, has gone to Liverpool on loan. So, they've freed up another space in midfield. I would be watching Chelsea and the moves that they're making. I think they want a centre-back, obviously, to cover Kadisha Buchanan's injury. And I'm sure we'll come on to this, but Naomi Girma is another name that is floating around. So that's two huge players that would cost a lot of money. Whether Chelsea bring in one of them, I'm not sure, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they had their kind of name in the ring for both of those players. And it wouldn't surprise me if one of them went to Chelsea in January or at least in the summer, because yeah, I think Chelsea's certainly interested in midfielders, and they're certainly interested in centre backs. As you said there, you know, Arsenal, as far as we know, you know, they had a world record bid turned down on deadline day in the summer. Whether or not they will, you know, have a go again this January is yet to be seen. But another one I would be looking at come towards the end of the window. Arsenal, they tend to bide their time, and they usually come in extremely late with big bids because, you know, they're kind of testing the club's nerve a little bit. Barcelona have held off very strongly so far. You know, they want to keep Keira until the end of the summer. But I do wonder if they're able to kind of do a bit of movement over the next week or two, then they might take the money because she's very highly likely going to be leaving on a free in the summer anyway. So I think there's more chance that Keira Walsh will leave in January than probably Chloe Kelly at the moment, just as things stand.
I would 100%, Anita. I don't know if you're the same. Welcome her back to the WSL, but only if she signs for Chelsea. No, serious question, Anita. Serious question. So if Keira Walsh, if she is to come back, and we're talking about these two top teams, we know how ambitious Keira Walsh is. Do you think her preference will be Chelsea, given, you know, how close they are to that Champions League spot in terms of winning it? Or do you think she'll opt to Arsenal and try and rebuild that Arsenal team? Or where do you think her profile fits better, Arsenal or Chelsea?
This one for me. Yeah.
You're the coach on that.
I was like, Emma, you take this one. No, I think when you think of playing style, Arsenal is probably the closest to the way Barcelona play. You know, they want to be a team that play for the thirds, nice kind of combination, possession football, really clear in their kind of identity. You can imagine her, in my opinion, slotting in, you know, whether that's kind of the Leah Volti role or beside her, or, you know, accompanying Kim Little or someone like that. You can kind of picture it. You can almost see football in motion with those types of players because they have similar qualities. She's very technical. She's very calm and composed on the ball. But on the same instance, you know, Sonia Bonpasteur has talked a lot about wanting more control in Chelsea's possession game and having, you know, players that can kind of steer the momentum and recognize when they need to slow the game down or when they need to speed it up. And I feel like Keira can add that quality to Chelsea because it's so much entrenched in her DNA as a footballer, coming through Man City, going to Barca. She could be that missing piece for Chelsea that just elevates them again on a different level from a football perspective.
Yeah, must be nice, right? Being a player that is wanted by the top teams, certainly in the WSL and around the world. But yeah, must be nice. Emma, you mentioned Naomi Girma. I was going to mention her. There's obviously been rumours from Chelsea, but also Lyon. Mm-hmm. Where do you think it's likely she might go? Obviously, she's at San Diego at the minute. Where do you think it's more likely she might go? Would she be more attracted to the WSL or the French league if she is?
Yeah, I mean, if I was to answer that, I'm not giving any intel because there's sort of no information yet in terms of what her preferences are. It would surprise me if she doesn't, you know, want to be playing obviously consistent Champions League football, which is why I think Chelsea and Lyon are probably the two most obvious clubs because, you know, we know they both get to the latter stages of the competition, you know, kind of every year consistently now. So I'm not sure kind of what her preferences are. I think, as I mentioned, I suppose Kadisha Buchanan's ACL at Chelsea means that they're probably more likely to be really pushing for a centre-back than maybe they were 6 months ago. So, you know, I do think if they are going to prioritise any position this January, then it will be in the centre-back department. As far as my understanding is, and what, you know, I have previously reported, is that Millie Bright is in, you know, advanced conversations around a contract extension. So hopefully they can get that wrapped up. I'm pretty positive that'll be wrapped up kind of in the next couple of days. So if they can obviously secure Millie Bright, then I think that's really important. And then they've got, you know, Natalie Bjorn, who they brought in from Everton a few seasons ago. But I do think they need another, you know, top centre back. I think, you know, preferably, you know, when you look at the Premier League title winning teams, for example, they tend to have kind of 4 really, really solid centre backs. And I think that's maybe where Chelsea, you know, the last couple of seasons, they've maybe lacked in terms of the Champions League. Obviously, they've had those injuries kind of in those centre-back positions. And I think they'll want to try and avoid that again. So I think it might be more of a question of which club in terms of Chelsea and Lyon can be more persuasive. And as I say, at the moment, I would probably put my money on Chelsea in terms of them making.
They don't put your house in it. You only just bought
it. Yeah, I'm not putting my house on it. But yeah, I reckon that'll be the one that Chelsea really go for.
Yeah, and I can imagine Emma as well, that Emma Hayes must be getting in Naomi Girma's ear, trying to convince her, doing a hard sell for Chelsea Blue.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? So fingers crossed if you're a Chelsea fan. I'd be putting all my eggs in the basket for that one.
Farah's got both her fingers crossed.
Yeah, for both Keira Walsh and Girma. I mean, and then if Chelsea don't go on to win the Champions League, they don't deserve to. Emma, last one from me on the transfer rumours. I mean, this one was a bit of a surprise. Alana Kennedy of Manchester City. I saw a few tweets and Instagrams and whatever that she hadn't been sighted, should I say, at the Abu Dhabi training camp of Manchester City for their winter break. And also in the FA Cup at the weekend, she wasn't a part of the squad, neither starter or on the bench. Have you heard anything? Is she still, having an extended, I guess, winter break at home? Is there any rumours that are true that she could potentially be leaving this window?
Yeah, I mean, I have heard a few whispers that maybe Alana Kennedy could be on the move. I haven't got any destinations yet. It's obviously one that I'm sort of working on a little bit. But yeah, there is a bit of talk that she perhaps will be leaving Manchester City. There was a few whispers in the summer that she might have been on the move as well. So that kind of doesn't really come as a massive surprise. Whether or not it's because she wants to go back sort of to Australia, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think maybe just keep an eye on that one. That's definitely one to watch, I would say.
Yeah, big eye. Neat, you have all the big names that are out of contract in the summer, I believe.
Yes, I do. Let's talk through them. So obviously at Chelsea, we got Millie Bright, Erin Cuthbert, Johanna Ritting-Kaneryd, Sophie Ingle, Cecilia Musovic and Kadisha Buchanan are all out of contract. We talked a little bit already on, we're going to go through them a little bit, or?
Yeah, I want to go through them because, Emma, what are you suggesting? I mean, how Erin Cuthbert has been allowed to, and certainly Millie Bright and Writing Kaneryd, how do you say her name again?
Kaneryd. Yeah, you're there. Yeah. Kaneryd.
Okay, Writing Kaneryd, how they've been allowed, those three in particular. I mean, I could put Sophie Ingle in with that, but I know she's got obviously that ACL. But I mean, in terms of what they've done for the club, certainly Cuthbert, Bright and Ingle, and obviously Kaneryd performances this season and towards the end of last season, how they've been allowed to run their contract to now without a renewal is beyond me as a Chelsea fan. So just talk me through how this has happened. Do we expect most of these to sign an extension, or do you see some of them leaving in the summer?
Yeah, I think simple answer is yes, I expect most of them, if not all of them, to sign extensions. I wouldn't be too worried if I was Chelsea fans. Chelsea, they tend to start these conversations very early on. So even on, from the outside, it might look like it's a bit last minute, but these conversations have been going on for months, as far as I know. Certainly, I've reported that Erin Cuthbert, Kadisha Buchanan and Millie Bright are all three players that Chelsea absolutely have been in, various conversations with for a long time. So I would expect all three to probably sign extensions this month. I would be really surprised if those three certainly don't. As for the others, there's kind of been no talk that any of them would think about leaving. I suppose the one that maybe is a little bit concerning is obviously Sophie Ingle, because as you mentioned, that ACL injury. And I think, if we're being kind of blunt about it, you think about her age now and she's probably coming towards more of the twilight years of her career. So whether or not she might think not to extend, I don't know. But Chelsea usually look after their players. So it wouldn't surprise me if they at the very least give her a 1-year extension and make sure that she's covered for that kind of ACL recovery return and look after her, because of obviously, she's been a huge player in Chelsea's history, not just in recent history. So I think they'll make sure that she gets the sending off that she deserves on her terms. So it wouldn't surprise me if she, like I say, at least extends for a year if she wants to. But yeah, I've kind of not heard any whispers around Sophie Ingle at the moment, so that's probably the one unknown. But yeah, the others, I'd be surprised if they don't re-sign. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Neats, but I'd like to think that bare minimum what Chelsea can offer is an extension to Sophie Ingles, given, as you mentioned, Emma, what she's done for that club and how long she's been there, a great servant of the club. So obviously that the ACL wasn't what she wanted, certainly this year with the Euros coming up, but that's the bare minimum they could offer, somebody that has given so much to the team. So we'll see. We'll have to keep our eye on that over the next few weeks, and obviously, come the summer.
No, definitely. I just seen all the colour return back to Farah's face, so you made her very happy there, Emma.
I just hope tomorrow there isn't a news flash that one of them's left.
Don't be doing that to me.
So we'll move on to Manchester City. Obviously, we mentioned Chloe Kelly already, but also Lia Alexandri is out of contract. Any grumblings there? Heard anything on the grapevine?
Yeah, now that's a really interesting one because she was heavily linked with Barcelona in the summer. They were very keen to sort of bring her back to Spain. I think, as far as I'm aware, they even sort of put in a bit of a kind of informal bid for her, and Manchester City said jog on. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're sort of still kind of floating around Lia's ears and trying to persuade her to come back to Barcelona. But yeah, as far as I know, there's kind of been no talk that she will be leaving Manchester City. Obviously, whenever players are injured, there is just generally a little bit less talk about them because they're not really around the squad as much. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned if I was a Manchester City fan. I'd want to get that deal wrapped up. I know it's one that Manchester City have been working on for a while, but whether or not she wants to agree that, I don't know. I haven't got any intel on that. But yeah, that's a huge one for them. I think she'll be probably a bit encouraged by the fact that Kirsten Kasperai, signed almost immediately. There was no hesitation there. And Lia, as far as I'm told, is she's happy at City. She's enjoyed her time there. So I think if I was Manchester City, I'd be calling her up every day and making sure she signs that contract.
Yeah, and she's an important player for them now, isn't she? And obviously, if Alana Kennedy is on her way out, they're going to need to make sure they retain, I think, players in that position. Well, so let's move on to Arsenal. Amanda Ilestedt and Victoria Pelova. Obviously, Amanda is just had a baby, so she's out on probably maternity leave and everything. But these are two interesting ones for Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, as far as my understanding is, Arsenal are looking to send out a couple of their young players on loan with the mind of Pelova and Ilestedt coming back. So that to me says that they're pretty convinced that those two players will be staying at the club and they'll be signing contract extensions. There was a lot of talk in the summer, kind of behind the scenes, that Pelova was having those conversations, or certainly planning on starting to have those conversations. So yeah, I would be surprised if both of those players don't sign extensions. And like I say, there's already a couple of young players in the pipeline that they're looking to send out on loan. I reported over the weekend that London City Lionesses are looking to bring in Freya Godfrey. So that's one of the young players. And I'd be looking at someone like Layla Harbert, who is maybe considering a couple of moves at the moment as well. So yeah, I think if they've got players going out, then that's because they're pretty confident that those senior players are nearing returns and like I say, hopefully staying at the club. So yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't sign extensions.
Yeah, Arsenal fans will be very happy to hear that. Man United, so out of contract, we got Jade Riviere, the right back, and Millie Turner.
That's a shock, that one. That one, Emma, I mean, Anita, Millie Turner, given certainly the last 18 months, her performances for Manchester United, I mean, leaving it this late, given her performances, I'm sure there'll be some clubs sniffing around to see what happens there.
Yeah,
and just before you start, Emma, on that, I think as a player, like Millie Turner, who is starting every game, is a consistent performer for them. From a psychological perspective, you want to feel valued by your club. You think that deal's going to get wrapped up straight away, right? Why would that happen? Why would they leave it so late?
Yeah, and that's been the criticism, hasn't it, of Manchester United in recent years, is I think behind the scenes, they're so slow with their processes. I think they've, since kind of Harvey's come in and led the recruitment, that is massively improved in kind of the last sort of 6 to 9 months. But they're still really slow with these contract renewals. The good news is that I can share, I did report last night that Jade Riviere is set to sign a long-term deal. I believe that's looking likely to be a 3-year with a 1-year option. So that could be announced this week. So that's obviously a huge boost for Manchester United. I think they are improving their sort of contract renewal system. You mentioned obviously at the top of the show about Grace Clinton. She's actually not signed a contract extension. The club have just triggered a year clause option in her contract. So that means the club had the option to keep her for another year. So they've done that, but she's actually not signed a new deal yet. So I would be a little bit concerned by that. So she is, she's staying at the club until the summer of 2026. But, I'd imagine that was the same situation as Jade Riviere, and Jade Riviere signed a new deal, as far as obviously I understand. So I'd be looking at that and being just a little bit concerned that I'd want Grace Clinton to be signing a new deal and get that sorted ASAP. So I still think that is very much a priority. And then, as you mentioned, Millie Turner, definitely another one. There's no talk behind the scenes that Millie will be leaving. So I'm assuming that is just a case of kind of them just agreeing the actual terms of the deal. But I'd be pretty confident that Millie would be staying at Manchester United.
Yeah, Man United fans, keep your eyes peeled then on that Grace Clinton deal. So, let's move on to Aston Villa. Lucy Staniforth, Jordan Nobbs, Kenza Darley and Rachel Daly. Yeah. So I'm a bit surprised here with, some of that, that's a bit of a shock, isn't it?
Yeah. And I also believe Daniel Turner as well. Her contract might be coming to an end in the summer. So another big player for them. So Aston Villa have got a hell of a lot of work to do. Kenza Darley, I have heard quite a lot of whispers that she perhaps might be on the move this month. There's certainly a couple of clubs that are interested in her. I've heard of one club in the US that have maybe shown a bit of interest. So maybe keep an eye on that one. But I think all you have to do is look at her lack of game time at the start of this season. She went from being a key player to kind of, I think it's only 4 WSL starts this season so far in 10 matches. So that's off the top of my head. So it might be incorrect there, but I think it's around kind of 4 or 5 games. So it's pretty much half of their games. So I think she's very disappointed in that from kind of what I hear. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kenza leaves this month. Obviously, clubs would have to pay a fee. So that might be a sticking point there, given, the fact she's coming towards kind of her the end of her career. But again, she wants to be getting regular game time before the Euro. She wants to get into that France squad. So I think it's a big 6 months for Kenza Darley. Rachel Daly obviously has retired internationally, so hasn't really got that kind of pressure in terms of the Euros. So I wonder whether, she might consider running out her contract if she doesn't sign an extension. There's been a little bit of talk that maybe she would look to kind of move on at the end of a Villa contract. So whether or not that happens, I think we'll have to wait and see. But those are the 2 players that I'd be kind of looking at from a Villa perspective and being a little bit concerned that they might leave. Lucy Staniforth is another one that, as far as I'm aware, last summer there was some conversations internally at Villa about whether or not they extended her contract, and they did for kind of a short-term period. So whether they extend it again, I'm not sure. I think given the fact that they've lacked quite a lot of kind of experience this year, there's been a lot of change. I think they might look to try and keep those senior players, and obviously Jordan Nobbs has been a key player for them as well. So I think Villa have got a lot of work to do. I think Kenza could leave in January.
So Emma, you mentioned Rachel Daly potentially running her contract out and maybe looking elsewhere. Do you think that elsewhere could be in the WSL, or do you think maybe abroad again?
Yeah, I'm not sure really. I haven't really got any intel on kind of, what she'd want to do next. Again, I think she's at that kind of position in her career, isn't she, where she might just want to stay closer to home. Obviously, she's, you know, recently just got engaged. So I'd be surprised if she goes abroad. But yeah, obviously Sarah seems pretty settled at Aston Villa. So, you know, whether or not Rachel will just kind of stay in the WSL or whether she will sign a 1-year deal, I'm not sure. But equally, I think the fact she's already retired internationally means, you know, she might already be thinking about her club career. You know, how much longer will she play? I'm not too sure, but yeah, I wouldn't want to kind of put anything in the air that she hasn't said publicly. But yeah, I'd just be a little bit concerned that she might not be here after next summer.
And do you think, obviously, with the number of players that, you know, renewals they have to do, and the players we've just discussed is been delayed because of the fact that they, you know, the manager has been sacked, so they got to find a replacement there. Do you think all the energy sort of been redirected a little bit, and that's probably just 100%. Why it's taking a bit longer? Yeah,
100%. I think, you know, I always get concerned for clubs when, you know, they're without a manager so close to the transfer window. Obviously, they've got Sean Goater in at the moment, but even he's not actually been named kind of an interim manager. He's just been, it's just he's in charge for these games. He's not actually been given the title. So I think they've completely messed up there, really. You know, they spent a hell of a lot of money in the summer. They completely backed Robert DePaul. It just all went wrong. And obviously they've sacked him, you know, 2 weeks before the start of the transfer window. So it's very difficult for them to get any recruitment done this month. So in a way, that probably actually helps those players, because if they're going to struggle to recruit because they haven't got a manager and they haven't got a model in place, and, you know, there's all sorts of issues higher up, then it might be a case that they just look to kind of secure those players and make sure that they've actually, you know, got a squad going forward for the next 6 months. But yeah, I think they really need to get that manager in ASAP. I think the talk at the moment is that Villa want to make sure that this one is done correctly. So there's been some talk that they might wait until the summer and maybe just give it to Sean on an interim basis for the next 6 months, and then get their sort of eggs in a row for kind of, you know, the summer transfer window, and make sure that they get that right.
Neat. So let me just jump in there, because you're talking about managers, and obviously Aston Villa haven't currently got one, but Arsenal still haven't announced a permanent manager yet. Do we expect Renee Slagers to get that? There was supposed to announce, I believe, on Friday just passed, and that wasn't announced. So, Emma, have you got anything on that? Anita, I mean, your Arsenal links, have you got anything on that one?
Yeah, go on, Nate. So you go first.
Yeah, you know what? I've been trying, Farah, I've been plugging, trying to get intel, and I still don't have an answer for anyone, unfortunately. So maybe Emma's better filled in than we are.
Not massively. I mean, I heard similar, that there was a bit of talk last week that maybe the players might be hearing who the new manager was, but we've not heard anything yet. So, you know, Arsenal have insisted all along very strongly that they're not rushing the process. They're really happy with Renee in there. Whether or not Renee wants it herself, we still don't really know. She's been quite coy about that. But I would think, given the silence and the kind of calmness around the place, maybe they will just give it to Renee. I think she's done enough to kind of, you know, earn the role. But yeah, I don't think Arsenal are that concerned. And I think their situation is different to Villa's in that, you know, kind of a lot of the recruitment and stuff was kind of not done by the manager anyway. So I think that will still be going on behind the scenes. And I don't think it will make too much of a difference. Kind of everything is still there, apart from obviously Jonas. He's kind of the only one that's left, but the rest of the kind of the coaching staff are still there. The rest of the setup apart from Edu, who as we know has stepped down as director, everything else is pretty much the same as what it was in the summer. So yeah, I don't think they'll rush, basically. But on a personal level, I'd be really surprised if Renee isn't named the new manager.
And we know one manager we can completely rule out of the running for the Arsenal job that was kind of spoken about a little bit was Casey Stoney, but we can congratulate her on getting the Canada national women's team job. So that's fantastic for her and great to see her back in coaching. So yeah, to end the transfer window talk on some positive news, Katie Stoney gets the job as the Canadian women's national team manager. So yeah, fantastic for her. And I guess she'll be moving her family again that way, certainly over out of England and closer to Canada anyway. But yeah, we've got some fans' questions, Anita. I know you really enjoy asking them. This is your part.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's start with the first one. It's from Lily Walsh. What's been your favourite transfer so far?
Lily Walsh, is that a connection to Keira Walsh? Yeah, I mean, I think, we spoke about it at the top of the show. I think, Everton signing Hayley Ladd is just a real coup. I think it's such a smart piece of business for everyone. It kind of came out of nowhere, and they actually got in Emma Watson on loan from Manchester United at the same time. So it was kind of a bit of a double deal there. But yeah, I think Hayley Ladd will be fantastic for Everton. And I think she'll play a huge role for them over the next 6 months. And and I think she'll play a key role for Wales in the summer as well. So that's probably the signing of the month so far.
I mean, Gura Wrighton adding to her contract extension for me was a big tick as a Chelsea fan. But I have to agree with Emma. I think the Hayley Ladd to my former club Everton, try and steady the ship there, because I mean, some of the performances, okay, they got a good couple of results towards the end of the December, but before that they were looking likely to be fighting relegation. So I think these signings, certainly Hayley Ladd, will improve them for sure. And I can stop worrying about my team or my former team getting relegated.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, both of you there. I think, like you said, we've all said Hayley Ladd is, got such a wealth of experience. Is going to add so much quality there. I'm going to put a slight other one in there. Sam Kerr, for Scottish Sam Kerr going to Liverpool is a good signing for them. I think they want someone who can combine with Olivia Smith and all these talented forwards they have, and hopefully they'll get and score more goals, because we know how tough they are to break down as a team as well. All right, the next question is from Carter Frenchies. I hope I'm saying that right. Carter Frenchies. Who will be the first £1 million transfer in the women's game?
Well, I think it's a player that we've spoken about. I think Naomi Girma, for me, is the best centre-back in the world. If she's on the market and clubs are after her, I'd be throwing £1 million at her personally. So, I mean, my house didn't cost that much, so I haven't got that money, unfortunately. But if I did, I'd be going after Naomi Girma. So it wouldn't surprise me if she becomes the first.
Interesting. That's an interesting one. I didn't even consider that in terms of £1 million. I mean, we've always thought, or I've certainly thought, certainly in the last 18 months, Keira Walsh could be that first £1 million signing. Do I still believe that could be, unless she goes in this window? We obviously know she's out of contract, so it won't be her. But yeah, I was going to say either Keira Walsh this window or potentially Chloe Kelly if teams are prepared to pay that sort of money for her.
Yeah, I would have said the same in terms of Keira Walsh. I'd be happy to see a defender be worth that cost, actually, in the women's game, and show, why we value world-class defenders in the game. But yeah, it'll be amazing to see when it does happen. And again, another evolution for women's football. And the final question is from Q. Who does Fara think is the best journalist? In brackets, surely Emma Sanders. Winky emoji.
Of course, exactly. I wonder who Q is. But
you didn't send this in yourself, Emma.
We only get the best on our show, Emma. So take it from us that we know that you're the best journalist. Certainly report all the great news. So that's why you were the first name that come to mind when we was thinking about doing this transfer window. So of course it's Emma Sanders, right, Needs?
Absolutely. This woman doesn't sleep, does she?
Oh, can you send us one of these mics? Does that mean I get a mic if I'm your favourite?
Yeah, because you can come on every transfer window. Any breaking news, you can always be on, for sure. We'll send you it. No, guys. Well, guys, thanks for listening to BBB. That is the end of our transfer talk. Emma, really appreciate you coming on and giving us some insights that we didn't quite have. Neat, great to have you back on. after a little breakaway to LA. Not one bit jealous. I am really. But that's it, guys. If you subscribe, like, and comment in the link below when we put it out. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week.